exist. After awakening, depending on how you got there and who you've been surrounded by and who you've been supported by or influenced by, there becomes a moment, although the experience is in your own heart and it is uniquely yours in that moment of opening. At some point, you realize that the experience is one of finding deep comfort and, in many ways, satisfaction with the experience of being alone. One of the biggest myths and one of the biggest challenges of modern life and society is the stories of being and feeling alone and being and feeling lonely. In our addiction to seeking connection, because we, as natural forces of our being, based on our behaviors and our separation from that, forever pursuing varying forms of connection, of being liked, of being acknowledged, just to be acknowledged that we exist and that what we do is good and approved and is awarded and is rewarded. That's what most of that pursuit of the void of connection is about in modern life. So the energy of money can be used and is often used. Money is not inherently bad, but when used in a way to pursue the hollowness and the void of connection, it can be a very dangerous tool because it can continue to fuel the sequence of events that become addictive and distracting to the truth of what's happening. And so as the awakening occurs, one of the things that often happens, and was definitely true for myself and is true now, is a great joy and peace and celebration of the aloneness, and distinctly for the first time experiencing that totally different from being lonely. Again, we have loneliness, which is the story of I am lacking something. I need to be distracted because if I'm not distracting myself with the pursuit of some sort of desire or some kind of accolade or some kind of stimulus, in the absence of that pursuit and the fulfillment of that desire, that silence feels incredibly scary and many people describe as painful. And so to avoid that natural state that is registered in such a way as pain or as fear, then we must always have a layer of energetic chaos that we create, that we're responsible for, that must sit on top of that natural silence of our being. And as long as there's enough chaos and enough noise, then we can continue the path to jump from piece to piece in the pursuit of desires and gratification so that we don't have to worry about feeling anything below that level that we create. We draw that line of experience. We create that. And so many people endlessly say they're tired, they're overworked, they're overstressed. Yes, and you are in complete control of the sovereignty of your existence. In any story that you can serve up that says 10,000 reasons why is the exact perpetuation of drawing that line of energetic chaos. So after awakening, for many people for the first time, the experience of being alone is one of complete love and peace and joy. And in the silence, you recognize for the first time not a void of something that's missing. You realize that it is the thing. That is what you are. You are that vastness. You are completely existing in every facet, beyond words, beyond actions, beyond needs, beyond pursuit, beyond all of that, and including all of that. You find yourself, the truth of nature, the truth of your existence, the absolute truth of your being. And once that shift happens, not because you worked for it, because nature has recalibrated balance within you, and then you can see clearly. More clearly, you can see all these things that you have been responsible for creating. We can call it the ego, not because the ego is bad. The ego is meant to help you protect yourself against pain and danger. And when you see and perceive pain and danger as lack of connection, and lack of connection is translated as being with yourself and being in the quiet. That is not you. That is absence of everything that could build up the story of who and what you are. And your ego is always meant to protect in a instinctive reactionary way. That's not bad. It makes me laugh when people are on the spiritual path and they're fighting their ego. Like your ego isn't here as a negative thing that you're ridding yourself of. It is the recognition of its existence as a true tool to help you, and understanding the use of that tool and the boundaries and through which it is helpful and unhelpful. So you have this experience after awakening where the silence brings you love, peace, joy, equanimity. You're not battling with it. You're not fighting it. Even right now with my eyes closed, I can promise you there's this energy that's pervasive in every part of my body and every cell of my being that is completely permeating with love, joy, peace, kindness, harmony, balance. That's just the factual nature of the experience. You don't have to work for that. You just have to stop all these stories of untruth and all these layers of chaotic nonsense that are blocking that natural state. The process of awakening is not an advancement. It is a shedding of all of the stuff that's been built up by the collective consciousness that we participated in to a point. And now we can see the boundaries in which that was helpful, and we're shedding it. We're letting it go to get back to a higher level of experiencing our truest nature with the innovation, technology, global participation in such beautiful ways that we've never gotten to experience in this time in this way before. So the loneliness is only a sickness of the ego distorting the beauty and the perpetual bliss and calm of the aloneness, because you can never be alone. The beauty of the aloneness is that after experiencing awakening, it's a laughable impossibility of being alone. So the aloneness just means that in a solitary way, you're experiencing the vastness of all of life through and as you. I mean, how beautiful is that? You feel most connected when you get to be within. I feel more connected to everyone and everything in this moment, right here, right now, in the gaps of the silence, than if I was surrounded by millions of people at some event. That's just the truth of it. So after awakening, oftentimes the aloneness is appreciated and understood in a completely fundamentally transforming way. It's a true transformation. And the concept of loneliness, you realize, again, is just a story. You can never be alone. It is an absolute impossibility. It makes the story of loneliness seem laughable, in many ways, truly laughable. And so imagine if all the things that were creating chaos to pull oneself away from potentially experiencing the pangs of loneliness. Imagine if there was a shift where that was nothing more than the most laughable story of your existence, a true impossibility, the most creative exercise that the human mind could imagine in the loneliness. And after a period of time, when you connect with the silence and the aloneness, then you start to come back and you start to have a desire to share with other human beings. And that's a very different process for every person, to try to do it as authentically and delicately and purposefully as you can, to try to navigate the truth of your experience and your being amidst an environment in which there's still a lot of separation and disconnection and pain. And to accept that is the authentic experience that other people are having, and knowing that there's a deeper truth that is also within them, that it is not your job to proselytize or even to push, because they are incarnating and experiencing their life in the most perfect way possible. And so you have to start to surrender to the beauty of everyone's incarnation. Otherwise, you are going to end up in a trap, and this is where the difference between the spiritual path and the religious experience is. Again, the religious is, I have some sort of insight that's oftentimes passed down to me, second, third hand, etc. And I've decided that I've made a choice. My mind has chosen to believe the story or this practice. And now that I have made that choice, it's a choice I've made to affiliate with a story of who I am related to a set of practices. Because that's a choice, I can get other people to make choices that I influence. No different than business, no different than unhealthy relationships. It's all the same. Once you affiliate and identify with any kind of story that you, through your own filter, for whatever reason, feel is good or bad, then you become the proselytizer when you want to influence other people's choices and decisions in that way. And spirituality is completely free of that. If you can't liberate yourself of the attachment to a story, including your own awakening, to share in the softest, gentlest, most delicate way at the times when your heart feels called to share, then you could fall into this circular trap of having these moments of awakening and then getting pulled back down into egoic stories and desires and attachments, which is beautiful. That's beautiful too. It's perfect too. But hopefully you get to see it, Oftentimes, sometimes we'll have these big experiences and we want to go shout about them, tell this is not the truth of how it is. And that is a beautiful process that can wear you out, the cycles of that. It will wear you out eventually. Your job is to be in your heart and to be loving and assume that every person, every interaction, every situation, every place, every moment, it is all perfectly aligned for your personal curriculum of your own spiritual development. And you can perceive that as you are going to influence and force other things to act in certain ways, or you can receive it as an invitation for your ongoing learning and evolution. Because again, everything that's happening to you is for you. And everything that you do for yourself in terms of your own awakening and getting deeper and deeper into your heart and seeing the mind for the beautiful, limited, flawed tool in many ways that it is, that work is affecting everyone. It can seem paradoxical, which most things of the spiritual path are. It's like by only working on yourself, that is in fact how you influence the collective of all consciousness. And as soon as you break that energetic rule, if you will, that natural order of feeling like there's a story that you've created and attached that you have to influence other people, that is in fact when you create the polarity of those who will not be influenced and will not be affected by you. And it's a beautiful paradox how it all works. The deeper you go in your own heart and you focus on yourself, you receive everything that comes to you in the perfect time, in the perfect way. Then you can work with that as your own experience. And the second that you create separation through words and ideas and stories, that is not, in fact, how the universe is working and you are not a part of it in that way, that's when you increase polarity. That's the interplay of the dark and the light and the heavy and the light and the fast and the slow and all the things that have metaphysical and scientific properties of how they work here. Eventually you'll want to go and be with people and find them, but the work starts in your own heart. It starts with the deep relationship with the aloneness. And in falling in love with the aloneness, you have the direct experience and relationship that you are, in fact, everything. You can never be lonely again. It is an impossibility. So when you get to experience humans after that, and you get to experience time with other people, the grasping, the manipulation, the putting on the facade, the multiple faces, multiple business cards, and here's what I do in my social time and my business time and my family time, and here's what I do for my social work, and all of that starts to unify. It's unison, because the story of grasping for connection, it's gone. Doesn't exist. It's hard to imagine. It's hard to imagine living in that story now. We don't have to try to speed up the process. We don't have to get people to believe anything. All we have to do is work on ourselves. The main component of most of disease, of the way in which we're living, the pain and the separation, comes from infinite variations of the story that we are alone, that we are separate. And there's no number of retreats, breathing exercises, books that can convince people that they are not alone, that it's all one. All of those things are good. All of those things are helpful. All the practices, all the teachings, all the books. But it's not something that will ever be taught. It's a direct experience of the heart and the soul unifying with the mind. Full recalibration, full alignment of all of that. You don't read about the universe. You don't have a workshop. You don't have tools that make you feel peaceful or calm. Again, those are the side effects of a complete way of being and living. Those are the side effects of truth, of nature, that you are all of the universe in totality. Sounds grandiose. until you know it as a direct experience. So I think the takeaway from today is really awakening is happening completely naturally and in a perfect way. Whatever practices and teachers and experiences you're drawn to is the perfect time and the perfect way for you to consciously create the ideal conditions for awakening to happen. You can't open a rose with a crowbar, and you can't force awakening to happen in any certain time or any certain way. It's always happening. And then when you have that moment of realization that you have stepped through a pane of glass, you walked through a doorway that you did not know existed before that moment. Once you recognize that, one of the biggest core experience changes is the incapability of feeling loneliness in the ways that you did prior to that experience, that moment. And I invite you to think about how many of our harsh, negative, dangerous, painful behaviors and pursuits and interactions stem from that core experience of separation and loneliness. You want to help people, you want to change climate, you want to create peace on earth, and go into the depths and the caverns of your own heart and find the farce and the lie that it was ever possible to be lonely. And then you will know that everything is possible to be revived and healed and connected again. Because as soon as you know that other people know, even if they don't talk about it. Many people are coming out and talking to me now about experiences they're having because I'm talking about it. And I'm talking about it not because I want to change anyone, because I know whoever's watching this and listening to it is drawn to this at the perfect way in the perfect moment. And we're all getting to share what we know, whether we kept that secret or whether we are also sharing it with others. So know that there is hope. Know that the work does reside within your own heart. And only in that perfect way, in this third dimension of polarities, can we allow other people to have the insights and wisdom that they need for themselves to fully blossom and to know the truth of what it's always been. This is not a new truth. This is the most ancient truth. You've always been the universe. You're the child of the stars, far beyond a meme on Instagram. You're stardust in the literal sense. The miracle of life. Don't forget that. Lots of love always. Thank you.